A city caught between two ages, trembling at the collision of worlds. The eternal city, ancient seat of Christendom, fortress of divine authority. Yet beyond its walls, a new force gathered the drums of nationalism, the march of unified Italy, and the certainty that sacred power must yield to secular ambition. Pope Pius IX sat enthroned in the Vatican, his temporal dominion shrinking year by year, about to make his final stand against the tide of history. The Italian army massed at the gates, their cannons trained on walls that had stood for centuries, and every Roman citizen chose their allegiance, king or pope, nation or faith. Life hung suspended between old certainties and new realities. Men and women lived in the last days of papal Rome, closer to revolution than they dared imagine. Welcome to Rome on September 20th, 1870. It is dawn at the Porta Pia, a tour of the city based on period engravings and early photographs. The Porta Pia stands defiant in the morning light. Michelangelo's final architectural masterpiece, a gateway designed for ceremony and triumph never intended to withstand modern artillery. Behind these walls, the last remnant of the Papal State's 1,000 years of temporal power compressed into a single city, defended by faith and foreign volunteers against the inexorable logic of Italian unification. The gate rises elegant and proud, its classical proportions. Speaking of Renaissance confidence, its stones about to learn the language of cannon fire. At 5 a.m., the bombardment begins. Italian guns roar in the September dawn, and history's last medieval kingdom enters its final hours. The assault comes swift and merciless, not the patient siege of ancient warfare, but the brutal efficiency of modern arms. Italian Bersaglieri in their plumed helmets charge through smoke and debris, their rifles ready, their purpose absolute. The kingdom of Italy will be complete. Rome must fall, the Pope must yield. Against them stand the Papal Zouaves. French, Belgian, Dutch volunteers in brilliant red pantaloons, defending a sovereignty they know is doomed, fighting for a principle already lost to time. The clash lasts hours, not days. 49 dead, 100 wounded, and the gates of papal Rome lie shattered. 3 cannonballs pierce the ancient wall, each one a proclamation. The modern world has arrived. In the Apostolic Palace, Pius IX receives the news, his face carved by decades of resistance and defiance. The Pope, who began as a reformer, now ends as history's most stubborn reactionary. He has already lost Bologna, lost the Romagna, lost the Marches, lost Umbria. Seen his territories stripped away piece by piece until only Rome remained. Now Rome too has fallen, but Pius will not yield, will not negotiate, will not accept. He declares himself the prisoner of the Vatican, refusing to set foot in a Rome ruled by usurpers, refusing to recognize the kingdom that has stolen his throne. The Church still commands 1 billion souls. The Pope still speaks with the voice of God, but his temporal power now measures 108 acres, a kingdom the size of a city park. For 1,000 years, the Pope ruled central Italy from the Adriatic to the Tyrrhenian Sea. The Papal State stretched across a third of the peninsula, defended by papal armies, governed by cardinals. A theocracy embedded in the heart of Europe. Then came Napoleon, then came revolution, then came Garibaldi with his red-shirted thousand and Cavour with his diplomatic cunning. Each victory for Italian nationalism carved away papal territory. By 1860, only Lazio remained. By 1870, only Rome itself. And now, at this moment of breach and surrender, only the Vatican and its gardens. The map tells the story in shrinking borders, a sovereignty collapsing inward until nothing remains but spiritual authority and the locked doors of self-imposed exile. The Vatican becomes a fortress of refusal. Its walls now mark not just religious space, but the boundary of an unrecognized state, a kingdom that exists only in papal declaration. The Swiss Guard patrol these walls. In Renaissance, uniforms, halberds, and bright stripes against the modern world, beyond protecting a pontiff who will not leave, will not compromise, will not acknowledge the Italian tricolour flying over Rome. Inside these walls, time stops. The clocks of the Vatican keep their own hours. The calendar follows only church feasts, and every protocol reinforces a claim the world no longer accepts. St. Peter's Dome rises magnificent and isolated, a monument to eternal authority, presiding over a sovereignty measured in yards. A kingdom smaller than a university campus, larger than infinity in its own estimation. Outside the Vatican walls, Italian soldiers patrol the Eternal City. Their king, Victor Emmanuel II, enters Rome in triumph. The unification is complete, the peninsula united from the Alps to Sicily, one nation under one crown. The Italian flag flies from the Quirinal Palace, where popes once resided in summer splendor. The government moves from Florence to Rome, capital of a new kingdom built on old glories. Romans celebrate in the streets or mourn in silence, depending on their allegiance. The city splits between those who welcome the future and those who cling to sacred tradition. Churches remain open, Mass is still celebrated, but the Rome of the popes has become the Rome of the kings, and no amount of protest can reverse what cannon fire has settled. The Papal Zouaves disband in defeat and honor. These foreign volunteers who crossed Europe to defend the Pope-French nobility and Belgian peasants side by side in their exotic uniform of red and blue. They came believing in a cause larger than nations, that the Pope's temporal power was divinely ordained, that secular kingdoms had no right to steal what God had granted. Now they disperse, their weapons surrendered, their bright uniforms folded away, returning to countries that barely remember why they went. They are the last crusaders fighting a medieval battle with modern rifles, defending a principle the world has already abandoned. Beautiful in their futility, tragic in their devotion. Rome in September 1870 is divided, conquered, and transformed a city of two realities, coexisting in hostile silence of sacred authority that will not bend and secular power that will not retreat. The Vatican remains inviolate behind its walls. The Pope remains prisoner of his own refusal. Italy remains incomplete in the eyes of the faithful and complete in the eyes of law. Every street marks a border between legitimacies, every church door a statement of defiance or submission. The Holy See commands the souls of millions across a territory it can cross in 20 minutes. For 59 years, the popes will not leave the Vatican, not until 1929, when Mussolini's Concordat creates Vatican City trading recognition for sovereignty, ending the standoff with a compromise neither side could have imagined. But on this day, in this moment, Rome belongs to the King, and the Pope belongs to history. A millennium of temporal power, reduced to principle, and protest in a fortress of faith, surrounded by the modern world. I hope you enjoyed this tour of Rome at the moment of transformation. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe